Hello and welcome. This is my 1996, I think, Gary Fisher Marlin rigid mountain bike. It was given to me by my friend's former co-worker, a couple of years ago. The bike's steel frame was in pretty good condition, but it had worn out components such as the saddle, tires, cables, cantilever brakes, and wheels. So yeah, pretty much everything. In stock form, it had a 3x7 Shimano Alivio drivetrain with Sram Grip Shift twist shifters, pretty much standard fare for the time. So what did I do with it? Well, I immediately set about refurbishing it. I installed a newer vintage leather saddle that I had, a 690mm alloy handlebar, vintage Ritchey 26-inch wheels, new tires, new cables, and so on. I basically made the bike once again rideable. Then a few months later, I got bored and I turned the Marlin into a drop bar gravel bike. The big challenge for me was to get the drop bar combo shifters to work with the rear mountain bike derailleur and the linear pull brakes. I was using microshift components and Tektro brakes, and I did get the setup working eventually, but not as well as I'd have liked. Both of these projects are in the playlist that I'll link at the end of the video. So, I recently decided that I wanted to turn the Marlin back into a flat bar mountain bike, going back to its roots in a manner of speaking. I got a new Wake 45mm stem that almost matches the frame's paint in bright sunlight. Otherwise, everything on the bike came from my parts collection. These components include the previously installed Tektro linear pull brakes, generic all-alloy brake levers, a WTB saddle, a 720mm handlebar, which I cannot recall the origin of, Entity slip-on grips from my Marin hardtail, 26 by 2.4 Continental Mountain King tires, an 11 to 34 tooth 9-speed Shimano cassette, an Altus rear derailleur, an Altus 9-speed trigger shifter, a JG Bike 1x crankset with a Snail 32-tooth narrow wide chainring, and a set of pretty much generic Chinese wheels and hubs that I've had for a while. At the end of the day, I'm really pleased with this build. I love the paint job on this bike. I like how that metallic green just pops in the bright sunlight, and the slightly weathered look to it. The patina, to coin a phrase. It really does look nice, and I'm really glad that I chose to just clean it and cover it with the clear coat rather than to try to repaint it. Sometimes you gotta keep what you got, and there's an old saying among the automotive crowd that it's only original once. Granted, the frame is pretty much the only original thing left, but there you go. I also like how the Mountain King tires look an awful lot like the plus-size tires that were so popular a few years ago. And I'll tell you what, that rear tire, it's got like the width of a matchbook cover between the tire and the chainstays. But clearance is clearance, and it works. And that's what counts. And, when I think about it, this bike has survived all these years pretty well, all things considered, especially considering how close it came to going to the dump. The young lady that gave me that bike, it was in the back of her SUV. Literally, she was going to go to the dump on the way home from work that day. I am really glad that my friend convinced her to give me a call, because this bike, it's just so good looking. I cannot wait to ride it on the trails kind of have to wait for that here in Maine at the moment. The trails are in that weird position between freeze and thaw, freeze and thaw, freeze and thaw, and I'm not going to be the guy that goes out and ruins the trails for everybody else. But once the trails do stabilize, I am anxious to see if those not quite plus tires have any real grip in the snow. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, there is, as promised, a link lower left to the playlist for the Marlin. And there's a link lower right to another video that I think you will enjoy. As always, seriously, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate that. Goodbye and have a great day.